Hey there! Welcome to APVA's member-centered event. Hang out with us today as we chat with members of the community, addressing the challenges of the typical African creative.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to Bisola, who just joined, who is also one of our speakers, and everyone will be joining or listening long after this space has been recorded. My name is Tolulokwe Kolade, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening to be the host of this event. I would have joined with my other account, but we want to sincerely apologize for the technical errors that we're encountering when we started this space, and I'm sure the team is working to ensure that the right link is distributed to everyone on time so that they can join, because obviously we had to create another space. So we're hoping that people can get the memo on time and they can join the room, or the space rather, so we can have a more interesting conversation with a lot of people in the space. Interestingly, we have all our speakers on ground, and again, welcome to the room. I see Bisola, I see Damilari and Miriam. It's a pleasure to host you all. As I was just saying, we're hoping that people can get the memo, because we had to change the link, or we had to restart the space, and I'm sure people are trying to figure out where we are right now, but we'll get across to them really soon. But the good thing is that this is definitely going to be recorded. It is being recorded as we speak, and it will be uploaded as a podcast, so people can listen and listen and listen again. And of course, that will, number into hundreds and thousands of listens. Well, okay, it's time for us to start. We are 13 minutes into this already, so we just have to start. I'll introduce myself again, and then I'll introduce us to what this is all about. My name is Tolulokwe Kolade. I'm a voiceover artist, a podcaster, and also a voiceover coach. I am the creative partner at the Association of African Podcasters and Voice Actors. That's APVA. And APVA is the platform on which we are hosting this Twitter Space webinar. For those who are wondering what this webinar is all about, it's a monthly webinar that we theme, or that we tag, Hang Out with APVA. And what we seek to do in Hang Out with APVA is to treat audio related issues that audio creatives encounter, and to just discuss them. In the past, we talked about the rise of AI and how it affects the voiceover industry. We've had other interesting conversations in the previous episodes, and today we decided to focus on another area of the audio industry that many creatives, I would say, don't really pay attention to. But then it's really important for us to pay attention to this part of our job if we're going to succeed brilliantly as audio creatives. So this is put together by APVA for voiceover artists, for podcasters, and for spoken word artists in the continent. And therefore, today we're going to be talking about protecting your voice, understanding intellectual property law, or laws for audio creatives. And who better to discuss all of this if not the legal practitioners themselves? And that's why we have three esteemed guest speakers, and they'll be talking about these topics under three different subtopics. Quickly, I'll just mention their name. They are, amazing people. I know them, and I am proud of what they've been able to achieve in their profession. First person is Miriam G. Otu. She's a legal practitioner from Ghana, and she'll be talking to us about copyright law for audio creatives. I'll still do the proper introduction, but for now, I just want you to know who we're expecting, or those who are going to be speaking to us. And we also have Omolere Abisola. She's also a legal practitioner, and she'll be talking to us about contract law for voiceover artists. She's here in Nigeria. And the third person is the last man standing, the only man. Is an entertainment lawyer, by the way, here in Nigeria, and he's going to be talking to us about trademark law for audio brands. And I look forward to an interesting conversation. But before I go any further, I'd like to encourage you, for those of us that have joined, I see Pano here, I see that's Pano Sticks, and I see Dr. Empress Rose, who, I mean, it's really lovely to have you here again. And yeah, we look forward to what we'll be talking about today. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I encourage you to share this link or this space with people on your contact or on social media so that they can join, because I believe that it is of utmost importance for us to pay attention to the issues of intellectual property for creatives, right? And this is important for our industry. So let many people, as much as you can share to them, let them join this right now. Let them know that we are live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Without wasting much of our time, we'll be talking about three major topics today: copyright laws for audio creatives, trademark law for audio brands, and contract law for voiceover artists. And like I said, our speakers will be talking about this. For the copyright law for audio creatives, which will be treated by Miriam GO2, what you should expect is the basics of copyright laws as pertain to audio content creation, including how to protect your original work, the use of copyrighted material, and how to avoid infringing on others' copyrighted material. So I'm going to request right now that the host, that's at APVA, kindly make our speakers on this space. Pass them the mic so that they can be activated as speakers on the space, and we can have a rich conversation. While you're trying to, do that, I'll just give people a brief on the other things that we should be expecting. Trademark law for audio brands. So this will be, taken by Odusonya Damilari, the entertainment lawyer. And what you should expect from that particular session is a focus on the importance of trademark law for audio brands, including how to select and protect a distinctive audio brand, how to avoid infringing on others' audio brands, and how to build and maintain brand recognition. And the third session that we will be, listening to is on contract laws for voiceover artists. And of course, we'll have Omolere Abisola talk to us about contract laws for voiceover artists. And what you should be expecting from this session is a discussion about the legal considerations and that voiceover artists should be aware of when entering into contracts, such as the scope of work, payment terms, and the ownership of the final product. And we could cover common issues that arise in voiceover artist contracts, such as exclusivity and rights to future use. So, I'm super excited, super pumped up for this, and I can't wait for us to get into the conversation. Welcome, Bisola. I see that you're already a speaker. I'm hoping that Damilari and Miriam will be made speakers. Good evening, Bisola.
Good evening. Thank you so much. It's really good to be here.
Great. It's good to have you here again, and I hope you're ready for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I am.
Fantastic. Now, I'll be introducing Bisola, but just before I introduce her, I know I've talked about how she's a legal practitioner, but a lot of people may not know that Bisola is also an amazing voiceover artist. So, who else to talk about this if not someone who is really, really into both sides? So it's a pleasure to have you once again here, Bisola.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here as a legal practitioner and even one with an active, voiceover work as well. So it's really a pleasure to be here, to be able to speak on the legal aspect as well as, as it pertains to voiceover work. So I'm really excited to be here, and I cannot wait to also hear from the amazing speakers that we have here, Miriam and Damilari.
Okay.
I'm sure it will be an entertaining and enlightening section for everybody. That's what we hope to achieve by the end of today's section.
Most certainly. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation, Bisola. So you'll be talking to us about contract law for voiceover artists. And I'll just do a brief introduction of whom Omolere Bisola is. She's a legal practitioner who specializes in corporate law and intellectual property law. With over 4 years of experience, she assists clients by providing legal advice, drafting contracts, and identifying and mitigating potential legal risks. She serves as a legal advisor to 3 private companies and is pursuing a Master's of Law degree, LLM. She's also the voice of Bisola Widlin. All right. Welcome on board, Bisola.
Thank you. Thank you. How dare you call me widely? It's
I'm so
widely.
sorry. I was just about
No,
to,
no, no.
I knew I made a
I'm
blunder
just
there. And I hope you're not going to put me in cuffs.
no, no, no. You're safe. You're safe. Really.
You don't mess around with lawyers. All
No, we're
right,
not trouble
Whitley.
at all.
All right, Whitley. So the floor is all yours. Talk to us about contract laws for voiceover artists for the next 15 minutes thereabout.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
6:22 now. So, all right. Hello again, everybody. It's good to be here, and I'll be talking about contract law for voiceover artists, like Tico just mentioned. And I wanted us to look at this in 3 or about 4 different sequences. So, again, it's a privilege to be here. I'm really delighted. And I wanted us to look at this topic in 4 different sequences, starting with what contract law is, or what a contract is. So we're not really talking contract law, because this will not be a contract law 101 class. But really, we want to really understand what a contract is, which I assume that you know, but it's still important that we start from there, especially since the topic for today is contract law for voice over artists. Right, and then we'll be moving on to why an awareness of contract law is useful or even important, or why it is necessary for us to have an awareness of contract law as voice actors. So it doesn't mean that we have to have a thorough understanding, like an in-depth understanding. I'm really just going to touch on why an awareness of contract law is important for us as voice actors. And then we'll be moving on to the legal issues that could arise, or the legal consideration that you need to bear in mind when getting into contracts. And then I'll be wrapping up with practical tips with respect to contract as it relates to your voiceover business. Right. So, and I hope that by the end of this section, it is my hope that we would have one or more new thoughts or insight that we can right away apply in the voiceover work as it goes. All right. So if we're starting with what a contract is, I believe that we all know that a contract is an agreement that the law will enforce, or that the law recognizes as it affects legal rights and duties of parties. So I'm not going to really bore us with so many definitions of contract, but what it's important to know is that as voice actor, you're mostly going into contracts, whether it's in a written form or in an oral form. Just like any other business, it's really a lot of agreements going in. I want you to do this voiceover recording for me. This is how much I'm going to pay you for this. And you say yes to that. So all the elements of a contract really pertains, or really they are right in the center of what you do as a voice actor, because there's an offer either from a client or an agent or whoever is on the other side, and then there is you, who in most cases you're really just responding to that, and then there is an exchange of this consideration that makes or which is one of the factors that makes the contract binding and enforceable. So contract is really at the core of what you do, or what we do as voice actors. Right. So moving on to why an awareness of contract law is useful. I'm going to start with when it is useful, right? I think that it is useful. I would say that it is useful in any situation, whether or not there is a contract. So it is useful when there is a contract. It is useful, an understanding of contracts is also useful when there is no contract. And what do I mean by that? In my experience as a voice actor, most of the contracts that I've gotten into, and by contract now, I think I should go back in a moment and say that I said earlier that contracts are agreements that the law will enforce, right? But of course, not all contracts are agreement, but not all agreements can be termed contract, right? So now when we are talking about contract, we are talking about not just what two people would like to do, but what will be legally recognized as governing the rights and duties of those parties. And when we talk about where there is a contract, in my experience as a voice actor, I see that most of the time the contract comes from the client, right? So, see, most of the time the actor is the one who is accepting the offer of the client. So now I'm going to use clients to mean our clients. That's the people who want us to do certain things for them or to offer voiceover services. So in that case, where they are bringing in a contract into the picture when they engage your services, you want to have an understanding of contract law. And it's also important, even if they're, because I also see, depending on what your voiceover journey is like, it's not in all cases that you have clients say, okay, this is what we are doing. Let's put down our thoughts in pen and paper or in ink and really have an understanding of how the scope of work is going to be and everything that is going to govern this relationship. So it's not all the time that you have that. There are times that people just it's really just an oral agreement, not necessarily a contract. But then an understanding of contract law is also important in that scenario, because it kind of helps you, as we will see when I get to the part of giving the practical tips and guidelines that particularly helps me, that it can help you just make sure that you and your client are on the same page as to what to expect, especially when there is no documentation from their own end. It can help you come up with a guide as to what the client should expect from you and what you can expect or what you expect from them. So, and I would say that an understanding of contract law is also important because it helps your voiceover business, whether you are a solo or you work with an agency. It really just helps you as a business owner. And I assume that I believe that these days most voice actors take their voice as a business, especially when they are working as a solo or as an entrepreneur. So they take it as a business person, as a business in itself. So I think that I would say that having an understanding of contract also helps you there, because it also helps you in negotiation. It gives you some measure of control where there is a contract, because then you can really negotiate and see that you're comfortable with all the terms of the contract. And where there is no contract, you still have some measure of control to express what you would like to guide your interaction or your relationship with your client. So it is certainly in our interest that we understand contract law, because now if there is a contract, the contract binds you. A contract, again, is an agreement that will be enforceable. And I haven't stated that all contracts are agreements. There is no point having an agreement that is not, or an agreement is no good if it cannot be enforced. So where there is a contract, you want to really understand what that contract is about, and be sure that you really know what you're getting into, especially since it's going to create a legal obligation on you, especially where the terms are expressly spelled out. And there's a written documentation to that effect, which is really common now, especially when you're working with corporate bodies and like that. If I have to move on now to the issues that could arise or legal consideration where there is a contract or where there is no contract, things that you just want to be aware of as a voice actor, you want to understand the scope of work, right? Let me take it from where there's a contract. Let's assume that there's a contract. You really want to understand, and it's something that you are agreeing to. You're signing the document you're agreeing to be bound by it. You want to really understand that it captures that you're on the same page. It captures what you expect it to capture. You want to understand things like revision for as voice actors. When you're engaged for a work, and it looks very simple on the surface. I want you to record this project for me, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to record it. But then what happens where the work is not? Maybe you need to redo the work and redo the work. Do you need to keep doing that work 100 times? Would you keep doing that until the client is satisfied? Or at what point, how do you define the relationship? How do you define the scope of work? That is either up to you or up to the client. And I think it's really helpful for you to be clear on what you offer. The scope of work is the part that covers what you offer and what they expect from you, because it also helps you to properly negotiate. If there is no contract, if there's no contract in the sense of understanding scope of work, then you want to be sure that you clarify what the scope of work entails, or you really have an understanding of what your client expects. So for instance, am I doing this work perpetually? Am I doing it? How do we define when is the work done? Is it until your satisfaction? Is it do you get free revisions? Now there are no, let me also say that there are no whatever you set or whatever I mention here, they are just supposed to be guides that will it's really just to bring you to an understanding of how these things can get. Scope of work, you want to be clear as to revision. So how many revisions am I giving to you for free? What does the basic work entail? Because there are cases practically. I have been in some situation, not quite much really, where the client then says, okay, they want free revisions, and maybe the work was supposed to include only 2 free revisions, or besides revision, who takes care of the errors, right? What if you send me a wrong script? You send me a wrong script, and maybe you didn't pay attention to that from your end, and I get to record it. So how do we get around that? Do you want me to re-record it at no extra cost? A contract will help you come up with a structure to guide this, because as creators, the time is also really important. Like, you want to, I think these things help when it really helps you define the scope of the work, really, so that you can avoid confusion with the client, right? So you want to be sure, if they're giving you a work, you want to be sure that you have an understanding of what the revision is like, what the errors, or how errors will be managed. You really just want to be sure that you are being adequately compensated for the work that you are doing. And besides that, you want to be sure that the client has a proper understanding of what to expect from you. And with respect to payment terms also, ordinarily, you would expect that as soon as your voiceover work is done, that you will be paid for it. But when there is a contract, you really have to look at it, because I've had instances, or I've seen instances, not firsthand now, but I have seen instances where the payment term was not what at all the actor was expecting, right? Not even in voiceover work now, but still in terms of contract. And so there was a lot of confusion. I expected you to pay me at this time, and the client is, oh, no. Standardly, our company policy is that we pay you maybe 3 months after the work is done, because of internal checks and all of that. So it's important that you have an understanding of what the payment terms are like. And if there's a documentation, you want to look into that, because sometimes they probably assume, oh, you would be okay with it. There's a lot of assumptions when there is no contract, really. And the essence of a contract is to help clarify as much as possible. So you want to be sure that you understand the payment terms, because then it helps you negotiate better, and to see that, to bring both of you on the same page. And another issue that comes up, I think this one I find very interesting, is the issue of ownership and exclusivity. Ownership and use. So I have recorded your work. What rights do I have to this work? Again, where there is a contract, it's clear, but you want to be sure that you really understand what it says. And with respect to contract, I think that most of the time when we have, before we get to the point of contract and documentation, there's usually a lot of, maybe not a lot, it could be a lot depending on the project, or it could be not so much. But there's usually preliminaries of some discussions, like, okay, just anything that the client and the author, or the artist in this case, agrees to. But when there's a documentation, you really want to be sure that you still go through it, or take a very good look at it, or in some cases even have, and advisably so, even have a legal person look at the work, because the issue of ownership becomes important. Who owns the work? Let me say, generally speaking, it will be expected that, okay, the client who gave you the work to do paid you for your service, and you are outrightly giving out your voice, and you get paid for that, and that's it. But a contract can give you some measure of control over that. Then you can decide how much you can get. Okay, am I going to be credited for this work? And personally, I've had instances where, okay, the voice, maybe an agent or a company contacts me for voiceover work, and they want me to do their voice, but then for whatever reason they don't want you to be credited. Maybe they just want they want you to be anonymous, right? So in that case, as the actor, you probably will not be able to use that in your portfolio, right? So if that's the case in that kind of project, I mean, you want to be sure that if you cannot keep 100%, if you cannot keep ownership of the work because they are buying it from you, you want to be sure that you are being adequately compensated for that, right? But
Yeah.
and the thing is, since the contract creates a legal obligation on you, for instance, if I had signed that kind of contract, and then maybe I see the work somewhere and I feel like, oh, okay, this would really, uh Tico, please let me know when I'm like 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
you're actually more than 5 minutes close to. So I mean, you
Okay.
can start to round up now.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. Mm.
Okay. Well, the point precisely is, you really want to see how much you can get. And if, because the person who gave me the words might really want to, they really do have, generally speaking, the right to probably be with them, considering that the work can be divided. Really, there's the lyrics, which is not mine, and there's the voice, which is mine, right? How much credit do I want to have? That's something that I want to be able to negotiate. And if I cannot, if for whatever reason you don't want me to be credited for it, then how can we get around that? It can also help me see, okay, maybe this is not even a project I want to work on, right? And considering that I'm out of time now, let me just move on to the practical tips, especially where there is no contract. What I personally do in some cases is to always reference to have a general document that tells the client what to expect from me, right? So for instance, I'm going to express the fact that I do have, if I do this work, I do have a right to be credited for this. I can use it in my portfolio. It could really be anything, just whatever I want. So in that case, I think it's useful, because it's something that you can really stand on. We do hope that there are no issues in all my work. Personally, I've never really had any issues, really, but you want to be sure that it just gives you some measure of control. So it's a link, and I would say that to do that very softly, It doesn't have to be, I want to let you know that I do know my rights, and I will now share this with you, but it's nice for you. You
Yeah.
just have a standard document that you could always, at the point of acceptance, okay, you do understand that I'm happy to accept this project
Yeah.
based on this. Please just, or you can just say, oh, take a look at this, and just to be sure that we're on the same page. So in that way, I
Yeah.
can control, for instance, how much credit I want to get for my work. I can control, even what I didn't talk about was future use and perpetual use. So rather than with a document like that, I can control the use. So that there are no assumptions, especially if there's no
Okay.
document from the other person's end. I want to say, okay, the voiceover would subsist for maybe 5 years, right? That's what the payment is for. So rather, if I do not want my voice to be in perpetual use, so it just gives a
Yeah.
way to like control what I want, and it's something you could always just reference to in your maybe in via email or something. So it's something you can, especially where there is no contract. So it helps you just and then if the client has a problem with that, then you can renegotiate that rather than just leaving it open without any base, and then there's a lot of different assumptions, really. So I think I'm out of time at this point. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
All right. Okay. Okay. So that'll be it for today. I hope that you can apply some of these things in your voiceover work. It is my hope that you apply them. If you, I hope that you apply them and see how it goes from there. It just really puts some structure to your voiceover work, which is really helpful, especially if you want to have some measure of control over where your
Yeah.
voice is going. Thank you so
Yeah.
so much, everybody, for listening. And I will now pass it over to T Code.
Thank you so much, Bisola. You're just listened to the voice of Omolere Bisola, the legal practitioner. We who also doubles as the voice of Bisola Whitling, the voice of our artist. And it's beautiful to hear her talk about the importance of having a contract when you're working, especially for voiceover artists. Because we're both voice actors, we know how unguarded our industry is. And for instance, like Bisola rightly mentioned, in a lot of cases, we get the clients sending us contracts. And of course, in many cases as well, like she said in that last point, sometimes it may not seem like um, a friendly thing. A friendly thing to do to the client when you bombard the person with some contracts, and
Mm-hmm.
the client looks at it like, for how many, this is just a 60 seconds commercial, right?
Yeah.
So personally, what I do is when I get clients that we're about to start to work, I sort of put my terms of work or my terms and condition. It's embedded in my invoice and it is sent
Mm-hmm.
to the client. But then I doubt that that is a contract in the real sense of what a contract should be. Because of course they're not signing to the invoice; they're just seeing it as the documents that tells them this is what they should pay, right? So it's still a gray area, to be honest, as to how we can creatively and carefully craft a contract between ourselves and the client. And thank you very much for the other things that you highlighted, right? Revisions, the scope of work, ownership, and exclusivity. These are really important things, and I think these are things that some of them will be discussed in the next session. So once again, I want to say a big thank you to you, Bisola. Just stay with us. By the end of, after the other speakers have spoken, we'll start taking questions. And for every other person listening right now, you can start to pen down your questions. Towards the end of the space, we will start taking those questions, and our speakers would, give answers to your questions. Just to recognize Molade, who joined, and Prof, we recognize your presence. Okay, so let's move to the next speaker right about now. Like they say, ladies first. So Damilari, you'll definitely be the gentleman here. Let's have the ladies go ahead. We already had Bisola Omoleye, and she spoke about copyright laws, right? Contract laws for voiceover artists. I beg your pardon. And we had a very interesting session there. We're just about to move to the next session now, and hopefully we will be able to, scale through to the end of this to the spaces. So, guys, yeah, welcome once again, and we still have our two esteemed speakers. Damilari is here and Marian is here. As I said before we were cut off from the previous space, we'll be listening to Miriam talk about copyright laws for audio creatives, and I'm expecting a session that will cover, we understanding how to protect our original work, the use of copyrighted materials, and how to avoid infringing of other copyrighted works. So it's beautiful to have Miriam. Miriam, if you can hear me, kindly unmute your mic and say something.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. It's nice to hear your voice from the sister nation, Ghana. How is Ghana today?
Yeah, Ghana is fine. Weather is so hot, incredibly hot
Wow.
for me.
Charlie, that I think that's the only thing I I know,
Oh,
right?
so judging.
Uh, Thank you for joining us, Charlie. Everybody's Charlie in Ghana, as far as I'm
No,
concerned.
yeah, even the president is
Charlie.
Charlie.
All right, it's a pleasure to have you
Anyway,
here. Yeah. By the way,
same here to you.
okay, so we're talking about copyright laws for audio creators. But before I pass the mic to you officially to speak, I want to do a bit of introduction for those who don't know you. I mean, of course, a lot of people don't know you. So, quickly now, we are talking to Miriam GO2, and she's a law practitioner with over 3 years of experience in legal drafting, criminal law, contract review, and ADR. She is the CEO of Bell's Collection and Food and an independent contractor at a law firm where she provides legal advice on business contract drafting to protect clients' interests. Marian holds a Bachelor of Laws degree, LLB, from Central University, Ghana, a master's degree in criminology, LLM, in criminology, and a master's degree in pricing and quotation innovation. It's my delight to bring here on stage, of course, she's on stage already, Miriam Good News O2 from Ghana. Welcome here again.
Thank you, thank you. It's a privilege to be here and talking to this distinguished gentlemen and ladies. I really appreciate.
Beautiful.
So,
The floor is yours now.
Tikodi,
Yeah.
sorry, you said I'll be going over copyright law and infringement.
Yes. Basically, your topic is copyright law for audio creatives. So, however you want to pan across that, we're delighted to listen to you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I have programmed this in a very simple way to let us understand. I do have a lot to talk about because copyright is a whole bunch of company on its own. And we all know what intellectual property is, but I would go over it. Intellectual property, it's um, it's a medium where you can protect your right and your literal work, musical, artistic work, and any other work, podcast, record, etc. Anything you have created on your own that is gifted by God. So, in copyright, intellectual property would give you the assurance to protect your right and make sure nobody infringe on your rights. That eventually your family would aim from it and they will all be appreciating your good words. And copyright law. I don't know if I should basically be talking or Ghana or blend it together with Nigeria. First of all, we have different types of intellectual property, which is copyright and
Okay, seems we've lost Miriam again. Uh, I am really, really anticipating this session as I'm very, very much anticipating it because I know Miriam had been preparing for this for over a month now. So hopefully she'll be joining us again as soon as the network is clear. Okay, so what I think I would like us to do is for those of us who have one or two things to say or to contribute to this, you can request for the mic right now because I know questions are bound to be asked. A lot of us have had encounters with clients, and when it comes to our intellectual work, our voiceover works, our you yourself probably have even infringed on somebody else's work because you probably used a soundtrack that wasn't licensed. So these are issues that we hardly talk about, or we talk about them, but in a very unprofessional manner, where we just come and we complain and we rant without really understanding the legal implications of signing a document that is brought to you by the client. So that's why we're here to try to understand all of these things. So please request the mic so it's not just me that is speaking while I am anticipating Miriam to join, and then we can have a very awesome conversation together. Bisola, you're still here, as well as Damilari, so you both would be speakers. Okay, right? I'm a co-host here. That means I have the right to make people speakers. So I'm using my exclusive right now. Miriam, I see that you're back to being a listener, so I am doing my job to bring you back as a speaker, and I hope you're able to join ASAP. I understand that Miriam's network is really bad right now. I wonder if it's the Ghanaian heat. But I hope that she's able to join us again. Whoever can join as a speaker, I would really love you to join as a speaker so we can have this conversation together and this doesn't become a monologue. I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't be able to answer your questions. Neither would I be able to, take all of this on my own. So I'm still hoping that I can have co-speakers. But then, while I'm waiting for people to join, while I'm waiting for you all to accept the mic, please, one more thing. If you can listen, if you can hear me right now, drop a thumbs up emoji. I just want to be sure that it's not me speaking and nobody's hearing me. Oh, fantastic. So you can hear me. Okay. And I'm trying to what's the word now? I'm trying to quit that temptation that I will then become the speaker here. I'm not the speaker, guys. I'm just one of the listeners. Oh, Bisola, you're back.
Yeah.
Damila, you're here. Miriam, you're still a listener. So this feels like when Captain America said, Avengers assemble, and then you guys are coming through. Thank you all for coming through, man, because Thanos was about to finish me.
You're doing so well. You're holding the
Thank you so
fort.
much.
You're holding the fort.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I'm so curious to hear somebody else right now. We've enjoyed Bisola so much, but Damilari has been the gentleman, the legal practitioner right there. It's just like, okay, so I'm gonna let the ladies first, and then I'm gonna, end this in the grand style. So, but then Damilari, you have the floor right now. Let's listen to you a little bit. It's a pleasure to have you here. Your portfolio speaks volume. I mean, you've done works for big brands internationally. I don't want to blow your trumpet, but then it's a pleasure to have you in the building. Do you mind unmuting your mic and saying one or two things?
Hi guys, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you two here, Damilari. I see you've done a lot of works from media to music industry to the film industry. I mean, you've been involved in clearing some big songs in Nigeria and this and that. And I mean, reality TV shows, Big Brother Nigeria, Real Housewives of Lagos, I mean, of Abuja rather. So it's a big deal to know that we have someone who has really been in the system for creatives so far. Um, just this is just a bit out of context, not really out of context, because I'm still hoping that Miriam can join again and continue, what she started, our own session before we move into yours. But I just want to ask you this question based on your experience in the field, in the industry. What do you think about audio creatives and how we how we engage with clients? I'm sure a lot of us have been cheated. I just want you to say something about your experience in this field, how you think creatives has been dealing with clients, and what you think we should pay attention to more to get out of that mirage where we think, oh, we're just creatives now. Let's just do our thing.
So I think first and foremost is um irrespective of whatever field, you know, a creative is a creative to start with, and there are some general issues or problems that we'll face. Although there are some that will be more industry specific, but they are like general ones that everyone can relate with. I think one of the first issues in general is most people, um, most businesses do not value creatives in general, and I think it even goes worse for audio, um, voiceover artists and all of that for different reasons. So the first thing is I always say that you may for example music, some people go, oh, I sing because I have a passion for singing and all of that, but whether I like it or not, you're not going to eat passion. The moment you decide to take your craft seriously and you want it to be a source of earning, or you want to monetize it, you have to start thinking of it as a business as opposed to just a hobby. Your hobby can be your business, even if it's part-time. Maybe you work 9 to 5 or something, and you're just doing whatever it is as part-time. It doesn't necessarily have to be um doesn't necessarily have to be something that is not profitable or anything like that. So an issue generally would be the services being offered by voiceover artists not being appreciated by talent, by the brands and whatnot. So for example, if you often find out that it's just, oh, let me pay this XYZ amount, the monetary terms are not the greatest to start with. Another issue would be trying to enforce your rights. So for example, how many times, and one of the guys here or the guys in the association will be the best to speak about it, but how many times do they have, I mean, when somebody wants you to do something, they give you a brief, but how many times do you get a contract? And the first speaker has spoken about the importance of contracts and all of that, but how many times do they give you a contract to review? Part of that is because it shows the the value placed on it, and these are issues that collectively we have to resolve, and that's why associations like this are very important, so that they are speaking on and for behalf of the creatives, or in this case the audiovisual creatives, and ensuring that their best interests are met.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow, fantastic. I mean, just these 2 3 minutes of listening to Damilare, it's been a whole lot of brilliance in this matter. Well, Damilare, we're still coming back to you, and I'm sure you've got a lot to share with us. I want to get back to Miriam. Miriam is talking about copyright issues, and then we get back to Damilare, who's going to talk about trademarking in its full glory. So, Miriam, welcome back. I know it's been a struggle to keep up with Twitter Spaces. So
It's really scared me. Gosh.
don't worry, you're fine. We're here. Thanos has not zapped everybody. Yeah. So let's talk. You were talking about copyrights, so please continue.
Yes. So, just as I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys, for every inconveniences. The network. Just as I said, copyright is a type of intellectual property that protects your original work from the author. So your work and you being the author of it, the maker, let me use that word, which we all know, the creator of the work. And we also have, in a sense, where a copyright owner, authority, somebody who has rights over copyright, can dish out or can give out his copyrights. We call it passing off. Can pass off his copyright to another person, be it either family, friends, but this is usually done in contract way, where they would have to write a statement that this Miriam, ought to passing off my copyright rights to this and this. So we all know that in this copyright, there are lots of different type of work into copyright, which is painting, photographing, illustration, musical composing, sound record, computer program, books, poets, a whole lot, movie, architectural work, plays, and all that. So all these are being protected under copyright infringement. So it depends on when the person is done with or feels like putting out the work in a public domain. That is where it had to get back to us. Do you know that even photocopying somebody's book without that person's permission, it's copyright infringement? You get. We all didn't know that when we're in school, we're busy photocopying work, doing all sorts of things to other people's work, original work, just to use for our own self to pass our exams. Those things are copyright infringement. And the originator of the work is the only person who have the right to pass the work to somebody. And there is also a fixed work, which is being captured either by under the authority or the author, meaning that it's giving him its specific medium to reproduce this work. So let's say, for instance, I have a let's say, okay, I'm a McDonald. I own McDonald, and I want T Cody to do a voiceover for me on a chicken advertisement. And then I'm like, okay, I don't have a good voice to do it. Let me get somebody who has a good voice to do it. And I get T Cody into play, and then T Cody does this work for me. You ask yourself, after doing this work, how many years will you use it? Would you want to use work that is meant for McDonald's and chicken for a bread, a toast bread? And the person had to deliberately state, or yeah, it had to be stated into your agreement with this person that, okay, you own the work, you own everything, and I do the voiceover and I do the work. So what do I get to get in return? What do you give me in return? Okay, you are supposed to get this and this and this. So the owner of the copyright automatically becomes the originator of the work, not you that have done the voiceover. You get it? Not you that have done the voiceover. It's rather the person who has called you to do McDonald's voiceover for a chicken is the right owner of the copyright. And even if you do drawings and all that, and if it is being inspired by somebody else saying, oh, draw my baby for me, and before you know it, the baby is out there, beautiful, is making names, and fashion designers, people want to use it. You, the person who drew the work, it's not the owner of it. It is the person who have given it to you to do. That is the rightful owner of it. And the law has really made them benefit from all this, because a person who has copyright right over his author or right over his work, this can linger for 70 years. Yes, for 70 years, for someone to have to earn from his own work for 70 years. And here comes the case, you ask yourself, so me that did the voiceover as an artist, it means my name is gone like that. Everything is gone. I don't have anything to gain from it. That is where I'll always advise people to rebrand your contract again. So there are how many years the person is going to use this product. If the person is going to use this voiceover or your work or your voice for 17 years, the contract should be renewable. That at the end of a year, I should be blessed, or my royalties should be this, that, and that. So that it won't be as if the person would enjoy these 70 years benefits, royalties, because he's the author of it, and then leave you aside, whose your voice is making name for him or for his business. So copyrights, someone can ask, how long does copyright protection last? It lasts for 120 years, 70 years. It depends on how the person has passed its survivor author to, or survivor protector rights to another person. Please, Cody, please do remind me when I am getting close to my time.
Okay, please go on.
So you may ask, when do somebody now infringe into my right? Right? That is always the question that, oh, I'm a voiceover artist, so I don't see there's any time I would infringe into somebody's right. And you would say, because there are thousands and one ways to infringe in somebody's right, copyright. And these ways are too plenty that I would just go on few. We'll talk about first confidentiality. When you break the confidentiality in a copyright agreement or in intellectual property agreement with your client, it's amount to infringement. I believe a lot of people don't know that telling a friend that, oh, Park PC has asked me to do this work. This is what the work is all about. Park PC is trying to promote the government election, and he has asked me to do this and this and this and that. It's an infringement, because you have told the next person, who would go and tell the next person, who would also use it for something different, and it might end up clashing back to your client, and your client is like, I've asked you to do something for me, and so and so and so has heard about it. How come they've all heard about what I've asked you to do secretly for me? So infringement of copyright is disclosure or breaking of confidentiality. The moment you break confidentiality in copyright or intellectual property, it becomes a crime. And breaching of intellectual property and infringement of rights comes another way in form of you not doing the work per the way the person has asked you to do it. Okay, I've asked you to put, where you are doing my work, it should be on English level. I want to hear a British words into it. I don't want to hear a local sound like you they go chop, they go chop. I want to hear something different. So by the time you don't do the work the way the person has asked you to do it, you have infringed the person's right and you have breached that contract. The person has every right to either take you out or tell you to forget about the contract. So I have few minutes left, and I'll be talking about some of these disputes. Some of these disputes are copyright infringement, trademark infringement, patent infringement, so on and so on. But right now, because we are focusing on copyright infringement, that is why I'm taking my time to dilute on the infringement, which is disclosure of confidentiality. That is the main root, or the main foundation for intellectual property infringement in voiceover. By the time you break all these rules and you don't tell your client what and what and what comes into play when this is being done, and the client assume that, okay, now you are done with the work, so I have to go. You don't tell your clients, it's not written in the contract that at a moment in time, or this contract had to be renewable whenever you want to use it for a different cause of having, whenever you want to use it for something different, you have to indulge me, who is your partner, into it. They said, okay, MT Cody, I want to use this voiceover for something else. I want to use this work you've done for me for something else. And every year I give you royalties, I give you that. And if it is not included into it, and you walk up to your client to say, Jack, you've used my work for this and this and this, you have breached the contract because you didn't even state your own rights proper. You didn't state your own royalties to let the person know what he needs to do for you in order to make it better.
Okay, I think we lost Marianne again. Obviously, it's a network issue, so she can pop up at any minute. But then this has been an interesting talk. Should I say lecture rather? Because Marianne has really been schooling us on the foundations of copyright. And then this is interesting because we're
Or
listening
am I
to.
still on?
Great, you're back, Marianne.
Hello?
Hi. You
Gosh.
can hear us, right?
Yes. I was
Fantastic.
lost.
So,
My
okay,
goodness.
you have 5 minutes, so you can just come to the end of this. Thank you.
Oh, it's not a good day for this network. Okay. So you asked who owns what in a voiceover. There's always this question: who owns what? What do I gain? What do I seems to achieve when I do a job for somebody? You get, and the thing you are able or you should stand to gain, it's the right to monetize your voice. The right to monetize your voice. So you don't oppress your client by making it look as if because you have done the work, so you have solo royalty to it. It had to be stated in the law in order to avoid infringement. And when this infringement is being when this infringement suddenly happens, you go to court to either resolve issue, either you return back the money, the other person, their plaintiff or whoever returns back the money that he has earned, the money he has monetized from that product to the rightful person. And either the rightful person will give you the legal royalty that is meant for you for your work done. So you don't need to take your client's work to any other person. It should be between you and your partner. When in case something like this should happen, there's a break of confidentiality and breach of trust. Then this person goes to court. You think you can't settle it with ADR, resolutional dispute revolution. You can't sort it out with that. You can't sit down to have an agreement with your client, and your client insists taking you to court because he feels you have earned money, monetize his work. You have to return back whatever you have gained from this work, and your client will give you the royalty that is meant for you. There is no life imprisonment for infringement of copyright at all. Like, unless that person is a very stubborn person, and the law will definitely deal with you by putting you in check. You get it. So there's no imprisonment in when copyright is being infringed, unless the person is a difficult person. But where your client is not, the only remedies is for you to return back the money or the benefits you earn from whatever work you've used your client's work to do, is to return it back. And your client will equally do same if there is any way he could. If possible, the court have asked him to do anything of such. I am so sorry for my network. I would have
Uh,
gone
it's
into
all right.
more details. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I know you have a lot to share, but due to time and network issues, we can only take
Last time, I think
just.
we should do it somewhere else and not on space, Twitter space. I don't know.
Yeah, Twitter space can be quite challenging as we have come to observe over time. So I'm sure we would work on that. But then we will piece together the spaces. We've held one previously where Bisola spoke to us about contract laws. So we'll piece it together with this one and we will make it a wholesome podcast episode for our hangout with APVA. So we really do appreciate you, Miriam, And we know there are questions to be asked from what you've said. We'll be taking those questions after we listen to Damilare so that we can have the question sessions all at once. And, we've benefited greatly from what you've said. Without wasting more time, I want to move to the third speaker. And Miriam, just hang on there. We'll get back to you. Damilare has been here. He's been
Okay.
a perfect gentleman. He's been waiting and allowing the women to do their thing. And now it is time to speak. So, Damilare, once again, I want to hear your voice. Just say hello to us.
Hi guys, good to be once again.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. Thank you for being a part of this. And I'll just read your profile and pass the mic on to you. So Damilare will be talking to us. Actually, his name is Odunsonya Damilare. Should I call you Barista Odunsonya Damilare? Because I have a lot of friends that are lawyers. And
No need, please.
okay, okay, that sounds cliche. Um, Yeah, so we've got Damilare Odusanya, and he's an entertainment lawyer who specializes in protecting and exploiting the intellectual property rights of creatives in Nigeria and abroad. He has a distinction, LLM, from Queen Mary University of London, and is an associate of BFA and Co-Legal. Dami Sonya has worked on several transactions in the media, music, and film industry, advising on reality TV shows like Big Brother Naija and film transactions. He helps clients with licensing, assignment, music clearance, merchandise, and other related agreements. Dami Sonya also offers talent management services and bookings through the the BFA agency. So it's a pleasure to have Odusanya Damilare. Maybe I would add Esquire. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we want to hear you speak, Damilare. The mic is yours.
Um, Hi, thanks for having me once again. It's a privilege to be here. Um, I would try not to take much of the time because I know time has gone already. Um, but I'll just talk quickly and briefly. And I'll try to make it as interesting as none, and also, you know, avoid a lot of legal jargon for you guys. um, so generally, I'm talking about trademark and how that relates to you and your brand as voiceover artist, and the importance of it and what you can use it to do and why you should, or why you should consider it. Firstly, trademark generally protects unique branding elements that identify a product or a service, and it helps distinguish it from others in the marketplace. Um, so one big thing about trademark, what trademark does is it allows people, identify your product or your service. So for example, today, once you want to have noodles, most people just go Indomie. I mean, technically, Indomie is not you know, it's not the word, it's not the actual word, but like Indomie is very popular and people use it in general. The same thing with either Close Up or McLean or more area, things like that. Um, so what trademark does is when you are able to, if you can trademark it, your brand or a product or a service, it gives you exclusivity and it stops other people from using it in the same, and people in the same field stop them from using it. That way people would not be confused. So imagine if you want to buy Indomie or you want to buy noodles and you want the Indomie brand and you go to the market, but then there's another brand that is called Idomie, for example, without the N, like Indomie but without the N there at the beginning. So and then you just go, oh, give me Indomie, and then somebody, you could mistakenly pick and it has the same branding or the same color and stuff like that. You could easily mistakenly pick the Idomie instead of picking Indomie, which is what you want. And that's what trademark tries to prevent. That when once a person, gets a trademark protection for a particular brand or product, it gives exclusivity to the brand. That being said, I'll try and put it, in practical terms as relates to voiceover. So, um, generally, what you can, as a voice over artist, what you can protect in terms of is your name, your logo, your slogan, and other distinctive marketing elements. And to give illustrations of that, so for example, an example of a name is your professional name. So for example, if you're known as something, you could get a trademark for it. So for example, Mr. Macaroni is, I mean, his name is Debo, but people know him as Mr. Macaroni, right? And when you hear Mr. Macaroni, the first thing that comes to your mind is Mr. Macaroni, the comedian, right? Or if you hear Fowls, for example, his name is Falano, but people know him more as Fowls. So you can trademark your professional name, and what that does is it stops people from using the name or a similar name so as to avoid confusion, right? Another thing you can protect is your logo. So, say for example, in your works as an audiovisual creative or as a voiceover artist, you have a logo, and you use the logo when either you're doing for your brand, or you're pitching for something, and you have a portfolio and you're sending it out, things like that. If you trademark the logo, what the logo does is, if people see the logo, they know what it stands for, right? And if your logo should have some distinctiveness, when people see the logo, they know, oh, this is this person's work. So for example, the example I will use will probably be the logo of Maven. For example, it's just letter M, and it's gold, and black and all of that. If you see that logo, you know that, oh, this is something that has to be Maven, right? Because people have come to identify the logo as or they've come to associate the logo, to relate with Maven. So imagine if somebody can use that logo and just put the logo out there. Someone who's not, related to Maven, people can patronize, or people can engage with that person on, thinking that, oh, maybe this person has some affiliation with Maven. Meanwhile, that's not the case, which is why you have trademark that can stop things like that. Another example is like your slogan. So that will refer to like a catchphrase that is unique to you as a voice artist. So another example, when Mr. Macaroni started, he had this phrase of, "Oh, you are doing well," that he used to do. Um, you can trademark that, and because when there's some phrases that, or slogans, that when you hear, the first thing that comes to your mind is a particular person. So to give a wonderful example, when Davido, if I don't know how many people watched the what's it called, the trailer for Timeless, when David made his first post, this year, and when there's a time for everything, and all of that, and after a while he just goes shake weight. Like, when people hear the word shake weight, it's associated with Davido, because he's used the word over time and over time and over time, right? And things like that. So you won't want a situation whereby you think of something is quite unique, and then the way you've used it as well, the phrase has now had a different meaning, right? And then all of a sudden people just start using it anyhow and making money off it. The word chikwe was never fun, but when David started using it, it had a different meaning. um I'm trying to look at, or trying to pick up another example, or things like Sabinos and investor vibes. I mean, those were words that nobody cared about, but it it has a different meaning because of how Sabinos has used it and incorporated into his craft. So the phrase is takes out of his goodwill, or he choke. I mean, generally choke. What's that? Well, David uses a choke, and David uses a choke and becomes popular, and now a choke means something. to the general person. So those are things you can trademark. And to I'll just also mention as an aside that in European countries, for example, you can also trademark your voice, or you can trademark sounds or voices. So for example, Tarzan, which was the childhood movie we all watched, I want to believe. Tarzan had this his yell, something like that, and they were able to trademark that under the EU trademark laws because it was distinctive, right? And if you hear that and you watched the movie, as most people did, the first person that comes to your mind is Tarzan, right? Or MGM's, the production company, they are like the lions roar. So when they're doing their stuff, there's a circle and there's a lion that is roaring, whatever. They were able to trademark that as well, because it was used in every single movie they produced, and it was unique, and they needed to protect it and to make it give them exclusivity and avoid other people utilizing it and benefiting from it. So that's what trademark does. Now, why trademark is crucial for audio brands, and why you should consider trademarking either your name, your logo, your slogan, and things like that, and your brand or your brand name, is because you spend audio brands, and as most brands do, you're going to be spending a significant amount of time and resources to build um, a reputation and an identity for your brand. So, I mean, obviously, before you blow, you would have done put out a lot of content, done different stuff, and then after a while, people start appreciating your work. More people get to view your work, and you've done all of that. You know, you do not now want to lose it or have somebody who is dragging it with you and benefiting from your goodwill. Simply because you did not um take appropriate action. If you didn't trademark it, then it's going to be an issue. You know, and trademark allows you protect your brand to prevent others from using either a similar name or a logo that would confuse consumers and whatnot. Um, then another thing is it helps people to um, in terms of protecting the consumers, like I'd mentioned earlier, using the Indomie example. That I want to buy a particular thing, but I just go and say, "Oh, give me this," but I'm mistaken. But either I'm not paying attention or I get confused because there's Indomie, there's Idomie. They look the same. I could pick the wrong one, which is not what I wanted. And so that's what trademark does. It helps consumers or protect consumers in terms of audiovisual art, voiceover artists. If you are able to get what's it called, trademark protection for your stuff, what it does is when people you won't allow them to be confused because nobody else would be using either a similar name or a similar logo, things like that. um then it also adds commercial value. So if your trademark has value, you develop your trademark and it is known to you. If a brand, maybe they're doing a campaign, for example, and your voice is quite unique due to the amount of work you've put into what's it called, developing your brand and whatnot, they will come for you, and they will pay more than they will pay to the ordinary person because they know that you are bringing value. So, and another thing, I think there was an issue with Sabino's and Gala and Peak Milk and all of that, and they ended up settling out of court and obviously paying him a lot of money. I mean, obviously we don't have the full details, but that was possible because he he had people knew him by those slangs, and according to the documents that his team put out on Twitter, they had started the process of registering it on with the trademarks registry. I think it was, I can't remember the exact phrase. It has something to do with the Pick Milk campaign for breakfast. You know. So if you are able to trademark your work, it increases the commercial value. I think last thing I'll talk about is how you can protect your brand. if the first step really to do is to register your trademark. And in Nigeria, you'd have to do, first and foremost, you have to get a trademark attorney or a trademark agent, who then would do a search to ensure that there's no pending trademark, there's no pending registration with the mark or the slogan or the name you want to register. And then we have 45 classes of 45 classes under which you can register your trademark under. Generally, I would say for audio creatives, or voiceover artists, the most relevant classes will be class 35 and class 41. Class 35 covers advertising, business management, business administration, and all of that. Why that will be relevant is because some of the people who are going to be using or utilizing your services are brands who are doing advertisements, so they want you to just do a voiceover and stuff like that. And class 41 is because it's the class that covers entertainment or sporting or cultural activities, and that's where most people in the entertainment industry fall under. It's like an open class. So first step is register, right? And I won't bore you by going through the different steps. Consult a lawyer for that. Then you also want to monitor. Another thing to do is to monitor your your brand. So you're monitoring for infringement, ensuring that nobody is using your to ensure
Trademark.
nobody is using your brand, right? Because if somebody is using it and you are not monitoring it, they are just going to be taking. They are going to be stealing from you, more or less, and that would lead to confusion and all of that. Some of the ways that the monitoring works is by doing trademark searches to ensure that nobody's trying to register a brand similar to yours. Monitoring, social media, things like that. So I don't know if many people notice. So for example, when Burna Boy released his Twice a Stall album, every single site that was trying to put out the album, you know, on different sites, pirate sites, they were just taking them down because that's part of copyright, um, doing your copyright portfolio or monitoring for infringement, because they were not meant to do that. But if people did that, it would mean that some people would not have to go to the DSP to stream the song because they could just download it from any of these illegal sites, and you know Burna Boy loses, right? And it may not be a lot of money for one person or two people or three people, but imagine if for everybody who streamed his album, he got, let's say, $1. But then one side goes and puts out, his album and then 100 people um stream it or download it from there. That means he's lost 100,000, right? Another way to protect your brand would be enforcing your trademark rights. That would mean when you see people who are using what you've registered as a trademark, you send cease and desist letters to them. You also use your trademark consistently. You keep on using it in your advertisement. So obviously, if you have trademarked you have a brand name, you keep on using the brand name and reinforcing the fact that that is your brand name, because you
Okay.
want people to associate you by that brand name. It will get to the point. How many people remember? How many people know Sabino's real name? How many people know? How many people, when you hear, oh, you're talking about comedians, people will more refer to Mr. Macaroni as Mr. Macaroni as opposed to Debo
People.
or the band or Files or the artist. And then I think that's generally it. So, and the last thing I'll talk about is, as much as you are protecting your own brand, you also don't want to infringe on other people's brand, right? So the way not to avoid infringing on people's brand is, first and foremost, when you want to pick a particular brand name or a particular slogan you'll be using, you want to ensure that nobody's using it. Nobody has been using it before you. So you have to conduct a search online. You can even conduct a search with the trademark registry, because you don't want to use someone's stuff, right? Then avoid using similar names or similar logos. You can get inspiration from people, but you don't want to steal the idea, and make and create issues for yourself. And another thing
Okay.
is to be aware of, what's happening in your industry. I think that's very important. Generally, what what's happening, because sometimes you may have a wonderful idea in your mind. You think, wow, brilliant, innovative, but somebody had done that like 5 years ago. And then when you're thinking, the fact that you don't know, or the fact that you are not aware that someone did something, does not mean it did not it did not exist. You were just not aware,
Mm.
you know. And then always seek legal advice. Like, you should,
Okay.
once you want to take your stuff, you need to make sure you are on and on with your lawyers. And in closing, I'll just drop general advices, that you want to make sure you are staying current, you are networking, you are always you're building a social media
Mm.
presence, and things like that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Damilare. I mean, that was such an insightful session. Now, listening to three lawyers back to back, I feel like going to study law. But I mean, that's just a joke. It's a pleasure listening to you guys. And one of the things that I've learned from this, aside from the things you guys taught or shared with us, is the value. Like, I think we don't value lawyers enough in our industry, and anybody who has listened to all of these sessions should understand why we need to work with lawyers more, because there are a lot of sides to this that we don't see. So thank you once again, Damilare, for spotlighting how important it is for us to trademark our business or our work or our creative products. Um, we'll just dive into the questions and answers right now. And that would mean that if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. As a matter of fact, I should make, if not everybody here, a speaker, because we're not so much anyway. So that way you all can just speak. I mean, like, say your questions out instead of typing them. So I'm passing the mic, or I'm inviting you all to speak so you can easily make or ask your questions. I'll start with the questions, and hopefully we all can catch up. And let me just start with Damilare, because I don't want the fire to go down right now. You said you've been talking about trademark or trademarking, and it's an interesting conversation. Well, but then for some of us who have gone the extra mile to register our company, so our company is registered under the law of the federal government, I mean, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, actually, CAC. Uh, is that synonymous to trademarking? Because I know that there's the part where you search for the name of the brand that you want to register if it's available. So, what's the difference? Because when you were talking about the process of trademarking, you mentioned a legal consultation that has to do with a certain type of lawyer that goes through a certain type of process. And I was thinking, oh, so that seems to be different. So, if my brand is coded voiceovers, which it is, does that mean that it is still not trademarked and I have to go through that process again? So, what do you say to that?
Yes, so they're different. The first thing is all of these things we're talking about, both from copyright to trademark, they are innovations of the intellectual property laws, to protect um, creations of the mind, right? And they're distinct. They stand aside from each other. That's one. Two is, when registering a company, what you have done is you have created a legal entity which you can contract with. So earlier, I believe it was Bisola had spoken about the need for entering contracts and stuff like that. Um, what's it called? In terms of contracts, if you want to enter a contract and you have a company, you can enter the contract with your company as opposed to entering, in your personal capacity, and that's good. But that does not mean, if you've not registered, or what's it called, done the whole trademark process, it doesn't stop someone from, you know, using, a similar name, right? So, and the trademark process is not just in relation to the name of the company or your professional. So, for example, you could have the name of your company, but that will not necessarily be your trade name, right? So you could be known in the space as um, anything, right? Or for example, my brand name will be Dami Sonia. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to register a company and the name of the company will be Dami Sonia, right? So I will still need to protect, my name or protect my slogan under the trademark. And it's quite different because Nigeria, for you to do a trademark protection, you need to get a trademark agent, and the trademark agent will do a search to ensure that there's no existing trademark in the class you want to register. So yeah,
Mm.
there are two different
Okay.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, two different things. Okay, thank you very much, Dami Sonia. I'll call you that since you don't want to accept Esquire or or barista. Okay. Welcome to those who are just joining. I see Sleek Ini and Jamit Studios. It's a pleasure to have you all, and Ren as well. I see you. Evelyn is here as well, and other people who have been with us all through this webinar. Uh, Okay, so we're still taking questions, and I'm hoping to have questions from listeners here. Miriam is the only second person who is a speaker and has the mic to speak right now. So I'll just move to Miriam a little. She spoke on copyright issues, copyright laws, and it was quite an interesting session, which sounded like a lecture to me because she was going neck deep into copyrights itself. One of the questions that I'll be interested in you answering, Marian, is the conversation on residual and full buyout fee for voiceover. And
Okay.
I'm sure you have a lot to say about that. So let you speak on that.
Okay. So, thank you for this opportunity. If you give me all day, we'll keep lecturing and lecturing. So, residual in addiction, it's like a compensation for which is commercially, and it's above the initial payment that a client has taken has that the client has enforced or you have enforced into your client. So let's say it's often like a royalty which is paid to a voice artist, where the client wants to renew the contract of your voiceover work towards him. So just as I said, if I've asked you to do something for me, which is mainly on McDonald's chicken, which is obviously different from any other chicken in the world. I was like, okay, Tikodi, I feel this work is done for McDonald's, and the agreement is that we'll have to do it for 2 years. And then before you know it, this voiceover is being recorded over for 6 years. You have to call the person per your terms and condition in the contract that was stated to him. He said, Charlie, what is going on? You have used the contract which we initially agreed on that I had to sign for. That had to go on for 2 years. And it's been going on for 6 years now. So it's your right to demand for extra residual, extra compensation, extra royalties from your client, depending on the kind of agreement you've had with him. If you had agreement that, oh, I do the work forever, don't contact me. And that is the problem with in the artistic work today. The social media, the content creators, the voiceover, the singers, the book writers, the book audio speakers. They tend to do this work and forget about it. They don't earn from it anymore. So it means when I'm done with particular work for a particular client, chicken out, it's gone. I don't have to earn anything again. So if the client is supposed to pay me 100,000 naira or 1,000 cedis, I do that work for just 1,000 cedis and it's gone. The clients can use this work for 100 years and make billions out of a work of 1,000 cedis. So I would always encourage voiceovers artists or any other artists there to always implement in their contracts that this work you're asking me to do had to be. Yeah, if I'm wrong, I and the first lady should correct me on this because it's really a problem in Africa today. Residual annual compensation, it's really a problem. So
Hmm.
the people at the end of the time, their clients ends up laying you off. from what you're supposed to gain from. And last time when I went to court, I sat on a court section. A client was saying, my work, you asked me to bring a GTP product, and I've brought a different type of GTP. I crafted it. I crafted the stamp, and you are using the stamp. If this person is a layman, and what I mean by layman is someone who is not educated about the law. It was somebody who had to tell, hey, this product yours? Said yes, it is his. And this person has used it. Imagine the amount of GTP products sold by that company. That this man is dying in abject poverty. When his handiwork, his creation, it's somewhere making top billions of dollars for somebody else. It's because he wasn't aware of what he was getting into because he's an illiterate. But when a lawyer came, they said no. The court was like, the fact that he's an illiterate, you used his illiteracy to override him or to cheat him or to defraud him from his right he was supposed to earn. So the court demanded he should give the company, the GTP should give this man royalties every 6 months. And they calculated from the years he entered into contract with them, even though it was not implemented. It's lucky enough if you find a good judge who is sitting on the throne, on the judgment seat that very day. If you find someone who doesn't care, he wouldn't mind about humanity compensation. But the person seated there was like, no, this man is dying of abject poverty, and you are making billions from a GTP stamp he created for you years back. There's this incident I came across: Ferrari, Gucci. This, I realized that their stamp, their logo, is actually from Africa. And today, intellectually, we have no mind, or we have not received royalties from that. There's this movie called Wakanda. Yeah, Wakanda. So you can remember they wore kente, Ghana kente in that movie. Do you know Ghana intellectual property sued them for infringement of their culture, and what did they call it? They said it's their stamp,
Fashion.
their logo. So you see, Ghana has this particular kente
Yeah.
that nobody in Africa has. So when they saw that kente in the movie, they had to sue them, and they paid them compensation. They paid. So if this can happen in just a material work, that we can all create that same material work. Imagine your voice. Your voice, that is you. The voice is tantamount to you, is equal to you. You enter into this contract and they end up not paying you the way you should. I mean, if somebody, a person like Tiko Odi should go 100 years and he's dead and gone, his students should be able to benefit from the work he has done from people. You get it? And
Yeah.
these people tend to enjoy. Is this like your client ends to enjoy more than you do? It's like, oh, just 100,000. Wow, you do it. You might call it just a 5 minutes work, but in terms of contracts and royalties, it is not. It's just 5 minutes work. You actually did the whole real thing for the person. So the least you can get is a tip out from the 100% he or she is earning or gaining from, and that is the
Okay.
royalty. So this residual needs to always be renewed. And don't allow your client, it depends on what product you are doing, which client you are dealing, or which company you are dealing with. If you are dealing with a big company like Shell has asked you to advertise a crude oil to differentiate between a refined crude oil and unrefined crude oil. You can imagine the amount of money you would charge them. You couldn't say, oh, because it's Shell, let me do it, it's 1 year and it's off and it's gone. No, you have to wisen up to earn from it as well, to make sure your family
Okay.
earn from it. If your agreement to it, don't let them lay you out. If they
Okay.
lay you out, it's just 1 year. Your voice is still going. You are somewhere drinking, God forbid, anybody, that person, that client is somewhere drinking Gary, and the company is
Okay.
somewhere milking your voice, milking your work.
All right,
So I would
Miriam.
always advise a voiceover artist, never accept a layout. People call me a crazy lawyer, but I feel people should be treated equally.
Okay.
Let's forget about
Oh,
law,
but
Christianity, and all that.
so when you say layout, just because I believe this is in a context, what does that mean? Can you
Okay, when
let
I say
everybody
fall of buyout fees, when I say fall or buyout fee layout,
know?
it's where you do the work for the clients. Tico, do you do a work for me? And our
Mm,
contract is do it and give me. And then I didn't ask you, oh boss, how many years with this contract will you
to
use my
use.
voice to do this? And I will
Mm,
tell you, okay, it's just 2 years,
mm,
and then I pay you for that 2 years, and then before you know it, 5 years later, you see that at the moment I pay you for that 2 years, you know nothing about my work anymore. I've taken my voiceover, I'm off. You know nothing about it. But over there with your clients, the work is that your voice has been going on for 10 years.
yeah.
10 good. He hasn't even come to say let's renew the contract or let's polish this audio. They just want to take it and phew, they run away.
Okay.
They
Okay.
don't want you to gain from it. So I would always say, unless it's not a work you won't benefit that much, or the company is now starting.
Avoid a full
Yeah.
buyout. That's what you're trying to
Yes,
say.
just avoid a full buyout. Always
My,
find a
I
way to gain, even if it's peswa from them.
yeah. I kind of feel like if we creatives took this legal arm of business very seriously, a lot of us would be way wealthier than we are right now. But
Or
it's not too late.
do you even know that when it comes to contracts, it's one thing we Africa we don't take into consideration, especially when it comes to law. We
Mm,
don't take law matters serious. When you go to America,
yeah.
I buy bed. I came home, I used the bed for 5 years. I realized the bed is giving me back pain. I'll take you see the person taking the company to court. Your bed has given me backache. So pay me compensation. You mean this is why
Mm,
people are always pushing in every petty things for their
mm.
right, for their rights. And we Africa, we have it, but it's just there lying down waiting for us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marianne. I mean, a lot of things have been said. I'm sure a lot of us are inspired right now. And like I always fall back to saying that all of this starts with education. The more we know, the better we're informed to take actions. And that way we can guide ourselves. Because if just the pocket of people understand these things in the industry and they're able to say, no, we're not taking this from you, the clients will easily move to some others or the more people who don't know much about these things. And at the end of the day, there's no standard. So we need to do a lot of education. And that's why APVA is using this platform as the initiative to, you know, proliferate the industry with a lot of information about what needs to be the
Exactly.
standard. We appreciate everyone that has been here. Damilare, you've done excellently well to explaining trademarks and the implication of that in our business. Bisola is here. Bisola has also spoken to us about contracts. I have a question that I would like Bisola to answer. I am hoping that she can receive the mic to speak. And like I said before, we all have opportunities to ask questions right now. So if you want to ask a question, aside from just raising your hand via an emoji, you can request the mic. I'll graciously pass you the mic. We want to hear your voice, ask your question, and our legal practitioners are here to answer. Miriam, all the way from Ghana, is here. Damilare, an entertainment lawyer, is here. Bisola Omolere, who is also a legal practitioner and a voiceover artist, he's here as well. And by the way, this is not just for voice actors, this also applies to podcasters and spoken word artists, right? So if you're in the podcast arm of things and you want to understand how these things relate to you, you do well, please, to ask a question in that regard. So, Bisola, welcome back. Uh,
Thank
I was going
you.
to ask a question. Yeah, yeah. Now, my bias, okay, I'm both a podcaster and a voiceover artist anyway. So let me ask this for voiceover artists, right? And I think the answer would be quite straightforward, but let's be real because, or let me put it this way. Let's look, let's answer this question based on the reality, present reality in our industry, right? Uh, as voice talents, are we supposed to even put our voice on any client's job without signing a contract? And I say this because more often than not, the practice in the industry is that a client comes, approaches you, ask for your demo, you send your demo, the person says, okay, let's do this job. How much is your rate? You send the rates and the person says, okay, we're going to do this for this amount, and then send us your invoice. You send the invoice, and then the person sends you the script, and then you record and you send, blah blah blah. There is no part where in many cases where you sign a document. And if you are supposed, if the answer to this is you need to sign a contract before you do a job, who should be at the vantage point of preparing the contract? Do we
Mhm.
leave that to the client? When the client sends the contract, how do we go around spotting things that well, I know this question will then lead us to a long talk, but I'm just trying to just give us briefly what that process should be like, how we can incorporate the legal aspect to our jobs as voice talents with clients. Where and when are we supposed to sign the document or the contract? And who should be the one to prepare the contract? Over to you now.
Oh, okay. When you say answering the question in terms of our current reality, I would say, based off experience and other people's story, the way voiceover has evolved in Nigeria, you would probably agree with me that it's been different journey for different people. Some of us didn't even know there was any such thing as a voiceover career. It probably started as, "Oh, I like your voice. Do you want to record this for me?" So that kind of journey. So I think the fact that people had different I think it's now that we're really even coming together to have these conversations. Uh, Before now, I didn't think that it used to be like this. I think it was mostly freelance or something. Excuse me. So everybody's journey has been, so people have different stories as to how they got into voiceover, right? So it and I think that we are influenced by that. So that largely contributes to the issue of whether there is a written documentation. I mean, somebody who just approaches me, for example, I'm just saying now, and says, "Oh, I like your voice. Please record this for me, and I'll probably pay you." I mean, let's say 6, 7 years ago, I personally did not even know that there was such a thing as a voiceover business. Do you understand? So if I were not even a legal person, I might not have even thought about, okay, what are we signing? Oh, really? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I'm saying that the fact that it's the structure of the voiceover industry as it used to be, or as a lot of persons know it, is one that mostly we just find ourselves doing it, and then we just get there. So I think that plays a role in why people just kind of figure it out on the way and find what works for them. And then if you're happy with that, you probably just get to grow in it as it goes. Right. And then to the issue of who should prepare the contract, for me, again, I would say in most cases, depending on the client, really, and depending on the project, uh, mostly the client who is engaging you always have their contract ready for you. And what I would do in that case is probably just review it, and where I'm not happy with some of the terms, I would give my input on that, and then see how we can come to an agreement, and then the document is revised and all of that. So that takes that off me. If I were not a legal person, that takes that off me. So it would be me requesting if you have a contract, or we just agree on terms and conditions, right? So ideally, the person who has more things to lose, or who has something to lose, should prepare the contract. Right. So now it's not, I wouldn't categorically say, oh, the client should always prepare the contract, or you should always prepare the contract. If you had to consult a legal person, for me, I would rather just have, if you have the contract, I'd prefer to review it, and then have my own standard of the things that I want, and that template that I want to see reflected in your contract. Or it could really be, it could be either way, really. But now, speaking as a community, this is where it now comes into play, where we decide, okay, do we want to propose a general template, that we can then use as voice actors? Do we want that? And that would have a lot of advantages as a community, because then it would bring about standardization, and concepts such as the rights which Miriam talked about. Those things will already be covered in the contracts that we'll probably have, maybe as a group or something. And in that way, that will be helpful not just for people who have spent so much time or who have long been in the voiceover business, but it will also cater to people that are upcoming at the same time. So really, if you're speaking as a community, then we can propose something along these lines, or the client could just have the contract, and then you review them to be sure that it complies with what you have in mind. So really, it's not. I think the emphasis should really be more on, does it reflect what I need it to reflect? How it comes.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Bisola. I mean, I really like that answer, and it was taking me back to because on right now one of the pressing issues in the voiceover community globally is the
Mhm.
rise of AI, and not just because AI seems to be a threat in when it comes to how our jobs will, be done and how clients will interface with us, but the fact that AI companies are approaching voice talents to get their jobs, I mean, to get their voices rather, for training their AI softwares, and the contracts that these companies send to the talents, they are quite skinnish, such that some talents have lost a lot to these companies because certain clauses were not properly paid attention to. So it's like an in
Absolutely.
perpetuity and things like that.
Mhm.
So the earlier the better. When you're talking about we as a community,
Mhm.
that speaks to the need for us to work in agreements, in unity, and come together and say, okay, these are the standards that we want for the voiceover community, for the voice, I mean, for the podcast, um, you know, community in Africa, and the spoken words and all of that. So, thank you very much for bringing this closer to us, and as an association seeking to push for the interest of voiceover artists and podcasters and spoken word artists, audio creatives in general in Africa. I am sure we will start acting fast on some of these things that you've mentioned. Well, it's been a long conversation. It's been an interesting one, and I want to appreciate all of our speakers so far. I have requested that we ask questions, but it seems like we're quite satisfied with many things that have been said. So I also believe that our guest speakers, they've done amazingly well, to lecture us or to teach us or to show us, expose us to the issue of copyright, the issue of trademarks, the issue of contracts, and in totality explaining how we can protect our voices, how we can protect, our works as voice actors or as podcasters or whatever. Thank you all very much. I want to assume that nobody else has a question right now because we'll be coming to the end of this webinar. If you have a question, just for the last time, you can just express this via an emoji and I'll give you the mic. And if you don't have a question, if nobody else has a question here, we can just come to the end of today's meeting or today's webinar. So while I'm expecting or waiting for anybody to ask questions, I'll just take this time to give a brief announcement of what has been ongoing in APVA at the moment, which I believe is something we should all be aware of. So, like you all know, APVA is the Association of African Podcasters and Voice Actors. And a quick announcement is that we have a big, big event coming up focused on spoken word artists. Actually, Afreximec Okay, I beg your pardon. That was a mouthful. Afrexim Bank, in joint partnership with APVA and Straw Academy, is holding a virtual poetry contest themed Utsukufu, the glory of Africa. But the best part about it is that we have over $3,500 up for grabs. And this is an opportunity for African spoken word poets to celebrate African culture and showcase their talents. In addition, you also get to perform your work on an international platform. So, how you can participate is to send your video entries on the theme The Glory of Africa to bit.ly/utukufu before 15th May 2023. And you can find more information about this on our website or the specific website dedicated to this, which is www.utukufu.apva.africa. A little bit more about what you expect is a chance to perform your original work on an international platform, instant APVA award nomination for the top 5 contestants, the opportunity to network with other poets and creatives while building your profile, $2,000 cash prize for the winner, $1,000 cash prize for the first runner-up, $500 cash prize for the second runner-up, and a whole lot of other benefits attached. So you can apply again at bit.ly/utukufu and take advantage of this exciting opportunity to celebrate African culture and share your talent with the world. So this again is sponsored proudly by Afrexim Bank. All right. For more information, for more opportunities, for more news, to listen to our podcast, to know what we're all about in APVA, visit our website at apva.africa. And we'll be glad you did. You can also be a part of the association. Just go to our website and you would easily find out everything there. I see Miriam's hand is up. So we'll just take Miriam's comment before we officially round off or end this. So, Miriam, over to you
Okay.
now.
Thank you. The last encouragement I would, let's say, an opinion I would give to any artist out there is, you see, voiceover, it's not implemented in intellectual property protection. Just let me, like, it was not specific, it's not specifically implemented like the way they said, for example, if you rape a minor, this and this and this goes into place, you are punished by this, you're this by that. You want to divorce, this and this and this come for you, this and this and that goes for you. So it's not specifically put in place in Africa. We should always try our best, because it's not put in place, we should always try our best to have a balanced equation with our clients and also with ourselves. Because if we don't, we'll end up working for, it's like monkey they work, bamboo they chop, abi bamboo they work, monkey they chop. You get it? That's the situation it will be like. And you end up getting people who would bring infringement into this, in injunction, impediment, and damages and criminal procedures being taken place when it's not supposed to be taken, when it's not supposed to even come up in the first place, because if somebody's felt or somebody's feeling as if he's been used with his work being out there and not being able to enjoy it. So we should try our best to always educate our clients on do's and don'ts before we get into contract with them. Because one thing we don't do in Africa, because it's not literally implemented into our constitutions and our contracts. So we are using laws from contracts and privacy, company law, contract law, that law, to merge together to give justice to voiceover artists. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't also be careful, because there are lawyers who meet that don't know anything about voiceover. They ask, what is voiceover? Your voice talking. So you brought somebody here that the person has used your voice to do what? Please, I join this case. And they'll squash the case because they feel it's not important. So we now, the young people who is trying to implement this into the system, we should set the grounds well so that the young people will benefit and enjoy in future. and it's really helped us because of this voiceover thing. It's really taking people to court that we don't even know, we don't hear about to get it. Or he asked me to do a preaching voiceover for him, and he hasn't paid me up to now. And this case will linger 1 year, 2 years because the judge is not interested. He doesn't want to even invest his time in such a petty matter. So they call it petty. But it's somebody's right here being infringed, and somebody's not gaining what he's supposed to gain. So we should all be careful out there and always put our wants and not our wants out to our clients.
Wow, thank you so much, Miriam. That was spot on, and what a way to give your closing or final words in today's webinar. I'll move on to Damilare and Bisola. So, this is your opportunity to give your parting words as we come to the end of this webinar tonight. So, Bisola, you're a speaker now. Please share with us your parting words.
Yes, thank you again for this opportunity. It was really a wonderful time I had listening to people like Miriam and even Damilare also share their thoughts in the matter. By way of closing, I would say that just make sure that you work with what you want to work with, and that you do have a say in the matter.
Exactly.
As a creative, you do
Yeah.
have a say, and you can decide how much you want to get, right?
Exactly.
And you do have a choice, right? So even if you don't have to always take the first offer, like you can look at it and decide what you want and agree to what you want, or not. And I would also say, when we talk about contract, it doesn't mean that be hostile to your client, and you always have to believe that they do want your voice because they believe it's good for them, and you want to respect that as well. So, but at the same time, you also want to protect yourself as much as is possible. And finally, I would just say, just look at everything properly and be sure that what you assume, the essence of a contract is that there should be no assumptions. Just make sure that everything is clear and that you really understand what you're getting into, and that is think long term as well, when going into these contracts. And again, that you can always introduce the things that you want in a contract. It's all about negotiation. Before, when you're at the table, you can put in your inputs and then make sure that it's something that everybody is happy at the end of the day, right? So let our voices keep promoting brands while we are also adequately rewarded and compensated for that.
Well said. Thank you so much, Bisola Omolere. And that's all we can take for now. I've been trying to make Damilare a speaker, but Damilare seems to be stuck for some reason in the listener session or section rather. So I'm not sure we'll be able to hear from Damilare anytime soon. Well, having said that, thank you all so much for being a part of today's webinar. I mean, it's been a rich one. Unfortunately, we couldn't garner as much listeners as we expected because we had technical issues at the beginning, jumping from one space to creating another one. And so we know a lot of people were quite confused as to where we are at the moment. So, but the good news, yeah, the good news is that we have this recorded and you can listen to it as a podcast episode on our podcast on AfriPods and other platforms. You can also listen to it right here on Twitter because it's recorded. Good enough, I have Damilare back. So, Damilare, it's your opportunity to give your parting words before we say this is a day. So, go on, please.
Thank you, Tolu. I think my parting words will be that, I like, as I said earlier, that once you're a creative, I think my advice all creatives to ensure that you take your craft as a business as opposed to just what you do or just a God given talent or God given gift. Because even God that gave us gifts or talent, expects us to bring profits from it, right? And today you see, we've had people who, were professionals in their various fields, but when they try to take their craft seriously, either drawing, acting, singing, whatever it is, and then they've found it to be very profitable. And we are in the era of the creative economy where there's a lot of value being put in, value being put for creatives, be it singing and anything, and so I think the first thing is to change the disposition that each person has. That you're a voiceover artist doesn't. I mean, a voiceover artist is quite similar to an artist in the sense that the difference is a voiceover artist talks largely, um, but what's it called? A musician sings. But at the end of the day, you're working with lyrics, you know. I think, and I'm honest, so I think you should first change your mind towards taking your craft seriously, and adding value. If you don't value yourself or value what you bring, people are definitely not going to value you in general, because people are always looking to devalue so that they can get more
Mm.
by paying less. And like
Yeah.
the last speaker had mentioned about negotiation and all of that, the first step is to ensuring you know what you're writer and make sure you're well educated so that you know what you're asking for and what to ask for, and to avoid anybody cheating on you, and never be afraid to make demands for certain things, and
Mm.
always being innovative. There are different people that need your services, from film makers who want narrators on their movies, down to podcasts, down to brands who are doing adverts, and the fact that it's not, it has not become a really big industry compared to the likes of the music industry or
Can anybody hear
artists
me?
or
Just drop an emoji, please. If you can hear me, I need to be sure.
I can hear you, I
I
guess.
can.
I can hear you too.
Can I go on to
Hi, everyone. So sorry. I don't know what went wrong, but now I'm back as a speaker. If you can hear me, kindly give me a thumbs up or just an emoji. I just want to be sure that, oh, great. I was enjoying Damilari, and for some reason, I stopped hearing him. And I don't know why, the other account. So I had to join with my second account. Anyway, guys, this is the end of the meeting for today. Damilari is out of the room already. I mean, please go and follow that dude, man. He's got he's got a lot of experience in this space. It's not easy to be followed by Davido, Mayoku, and many other entertainers in the industry. So Damilari is a legit entertainment lawyer and he knows his onions. So it was a pleasure having him. It was a pleasure having Miriam all the way from Ghana. It was beautiful listening to our intellectual conversation about the voiceover industry and copyright issues for creatives, audio creatives in general. And then Bisola, a fantastic voice talent, I must say, and also a legal practitioner. Thank you, Bisola, for adding spice to this conversation, talking about contract-related matters. My name is Tolu Kolade. You call me T-Code. I'm a voiceover artist, a podcaster, the host of the Everything Voiceovers podcast, African Perspective, and you can find conversations related to the voiceover industry in Africa in my podcast, where I've interviewed over 20 voice actors across the continent, established voice actors, and they share their experiences, their stories, and we learn from them. Well, this is where we call it a wrap for today. And follow us for more interesting talks and information about the industry at large. Well, guys, I'm saying bye-bye, and we'll see some other time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the episode. Become a member of APVA today. Visit apva.africa to learn more.